Hi, I'm Jeremy Hutchison Krupat. I am a faculty member here at Cambridge Judge Business School in the Operations and Technology Management area. Um, I joined Judge in 2018, in the fall of 2018. And so since joining Judge, the things that I've been involved in, I teach in a number of degree programs, or I teach or have taught in a number of degree programs. Um, I teach entrepreneurship and innovation in the Masters of Entrepreneurship. I teach in the MPhil for technology policy, in the MBA and the executive MBA. In addition to that, I also do a lot of entrepreneurship and innovation in non-degree programs. So everything from programs with nascent entrepreneurs just starting out, all the way through SMEs, small, medium enterprises, up to large corporates in the private and public sector. Most of these programs are offered through either executive education or through some of centers such as the Entrepreneurship Center. All of these activities really help keep me grounded. In addition to the teaching, I'm also the director for the Masters of Entrepreneurship, and I co-direct the Entrepreneurship Center. So if we think about it for a second, this is just my portfolio of activities here at Judge that sort of tap into entrepreneurship, and you can already start to see the broad set, the portfolio of things that we do. And for me, this was really an important factor that even attracted me to come to Judge. It really allows me to sort of keep my finger on the pulse of entrepreneurship, to figure out what's going on, what are the pains, challenges, what are people talking about. Um, and so again, this to me is Judge when we talk about entrepreneurship, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today. I'm not going to talk about entrepreneurship within a specific program. I'm not going to talk about entrepreneurship within my research or within a specific discipline, but really about how entrepreneurship sort of permeates everything that goes on here at Judge. Um, to try and just frame the discussion, I really wanted to talk about it in terms of who gets involved in entrepreneurship, right? So who we are, who is it, who's involved, what we do. So what are we even talking about when we talk about entrepreneurship? What are the activities? Um, how we do it? How do we go about this? How does it kind of permeate everything that we do? And then lastly, I want to touch on kind of what's the context within which entrepreneurship takes place in Judge. So with that sort of a backdrop, let me begin the talk by talking about the who. Naturally, I'm speaking to you here, and it's faculty, faculty are a big part of entrepreneurship here, right? So it's the research that we do, but I think there's something important in that. It's partly the fact that at Judge, there's not just one entrepreneurship subject group, right? As I mentioned, I'm part of the Operations and Technology Management group, and I do work in entrepreneurship and innovation, but there's also across every single subject group, whether it's information systems, marketing, org theory, organizational behavior, econ, accounting, every single subject group has people who are involved in entrepreneurship, research, and teaching. And this is really something special because when you think about it, when you think about every organization, every organization is going to have some sort of dialogue that bonds people together. And especially when you think about academics, right? Academics are people who attach meaning to every single word and phrase, and we get very, very narrowly focused. And that Judge, entrepreneurship is one of those things that is a common ground. So if we're at the cafe grabbing coffee, tea, or we're at the proverbial water cooler, entrepreneurship is always the one area that we can all come together and discuss. And this is something that's just really special. And it's something that, again, attracted me here. And it's something that since I've been here, I really have grown to value and recognize. Beyond faculty, it's students. So no matter what program you have, no matter what school, students are obviously an integral part of what makes the program itself, what makes the school itself, what defines the school and the program. Here, it's hard for, while any business school is going to have entrepreneurial students, here, and I say this a lot of times in these experience day discussions, all programs will have students that are interested in entrepreneurship. What really defines different programs is what degree or how many, what the percentage of the population, the student body, are entrepreneurs. But across all programs have students that are interested in entrepreneurship. And sometimes the students might not come in interested in it, but just because of Cambridge and the school, the university, and the cluster that we operate within, it's pretty hard not to be exposed to entrepreneurship to some degree. Beyond the faculty, beyond the students, then we really just start to go out to the broader community. By the broader community, this is just broader within Judge, right? So we have the faculty, the students, but then we have the centers, right? So there's the Center for Social Innovation, there's the Entrepreneurship Center. Outside of the centers in the school, then we start to really get much more broader within the university. At the university, we're going to have different colleges get involved, different student societies get involved, PhDs, postdocs, and then outside of that, there's just the broader Cambridge cluster, right? And within the Cambridge cluster, we're also going to have different maker spaces. So the whole, really everything that defines Cambridge just has this same entrepreneurial spirit that permeates. So that's kind of a little bit of who, and if there's one takeaway from the who, it's really that it's hard to be in Cambridge and not be a part of entrepreneurship or actually be exposed to entrepreneurship. When we now go from who and talk about what, right? I've already alluded a little bit in terms of naturally it's the research and the teaching, but it's more than just the fact that there's research and there's teaching on entrepreneurship. When it comes to teaching at Judge, one of the things that is really, I often say it's very credible signal of how important it is there's core courses in many of our programs on entrepreneurship and innovation, which is not found everywhere, right? So our exec MBA has core courses in entrepreneurship and innovation. Our MBA has core courses in entrepreneurship and innovation. Naturally, obviously, entrepreneurship courses are going to have that, but the MBA and MBA do. Now, it's also with research, we talk about, I mentioned that kind of entrepreneurship is this common ground, but we also see it in the research that's conducted. So there's a colleague of mine in the operations area is working on a research paper with another colleague who has a background in archaeology, and the two of them are working on a paper looking at how do nascent entrepreneurs pivot, and how early do they pivot, and how do they respond to signals from the market. And this is using a data set that has entrepreneurs from the accelerator within our entrepreneurship center. So that to me is a really good example of when we talk about who, well, it's different disciplines, but we also talk about the who, well, it's the entrepreneurship center, and it's the actual ventures in the entrepreneurship center, which are coming from the broader community, all coming together to generate a nice piece of research, right? Then when we talk about what, it's not just research and teaching. There's just a tremendous amount of activity going on in the school and the broader university. This is everything from student-led groups, so whether it's the Cambridge University Entrepreneurs or QTech, or whether it's programs that are coming out of the Entrepreneurship Center, Enterprise Tech, Enterprise Women, Enterprise Tuesdays, where you have speakers coming in, entrepreneurs talking on a themed event for the night, or even college activities. It could be Churchill Enterprise, Downing Enterprise, Fitzwilliam, Hughes Hall has things, the Parmy Prize from Pembroke College. All of these are different activities, sometimes overwhelming, to be honest, in terms of the amount of activity that's out there. But this is another thing when I refer to our students as being entrepreneurial. Part of the entrepreneurial spirit is there's so much out there to access and to get involved in that you have to take the initiative, go and find out what it is you like, go and meet people, go and talk to them, experiment, listen, ask questions. And Cambridge is a place that you can do this. It's really, really hard living in Cambridge to go anywhere and not run into someone where you're going to have a conversation on entrepreneurship. this is the case because once we get outside the university, right, naturally Cambridge is known for, discoveries in genome, known for ARM, and we have corporate headquarters of AstraZeneca and ARM. We have research centers from Amazon, from Microsoft, from Samsung. So as you talk, I go to football games with my son, and it's hard that I don't run into parents that are going to start up a conversation on what's going on in some sort of entrepreneurial venture. So all of this, again, is to say entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial activity is just a part of who we are and what we do in Judge, but also in the university, and really just in terms of Cambridge. And that really makes it special. So I want to now kind of shift towards the how, right? And again, it's all of these are sort of building, but the focus of how isn't just how we do research or how we teach. But I think it's important to recognize that when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's really how we do things at Judge. And I think this is really best put into context just with the story of a recent setting at a session I was doing a few weeks back. Because if you think about it, the COVID pandemic in many ways has really revealed just how entrepreneurial our community is in terms of how we do things. Naturally, just the fact that we're having to do the experience day through a video and doing this is showing, everybody's had to adapt in this forced experiment. But during this session I was giving a few weeks back, it was at the end of a week, and we were just reflecting on how the week had been. And naturally, students had a number of comments on, on the content of the courses and how great it was to hear from entrepreneurs and to get some frameworks and learning and everything related to entrepreneurship and innovation. But the one student really acknowledged at the end, they said, all of that, I yes, it exceeded my expectations and that was wonderful. But what really surprised me was how entrepreneurial everybody was, not just the faculty, not just the students, but the staff, the audio video technicians, everybody. And they said this, the examples they gave were, we started out the week and we were trying this. We had the TV monitors. We were trying to do a hybrid environment where we had people at home and we had people in the classroom. And they said, in the beginning of the week, the video angles weren't quite right, or it was hard to hear. And then we came in the next day and we noticed that the program manager was taking the TV upstairs and moving a TV from the next room over here to give another camera angle and to give another view so people could see people at home. And I said it was really impressive to see how everybody got involved and listened, right? So they listened to what students wanted and adapted and experimented and weren't afraid. And that sort of sunk in the conversation that we had was, it obviously felt good, but this was how we do things. And it's one that extends from faculty to students to staff to every single program. And it's something that, again, when you think about entrepreneurship at Judge, it just cuts across really kind of who we are. And I think that, as I reflected on giving this talk to potential students, I thought that was something special that really doesn't come across until you're actually here at Judge and see that. The last bit I wanted to talk about is sort of context, right? And what I mean by context is really the environment that we operate within. And so the Cambridge cluster, the ecosystem that we have, which, by the way, is another one that we have research going on here at Judge, looking at the Cambridge ecosystem as compared to different ecosystems and how it operates. But this ecosystem and the city is really, I often talk about it. It's like the Goldilocks. It's in the sweet spot of cities, localities, towns. It's not so big, so it's not London. It's not that you get lost, right? But the amount of activity, the amount of entrepreneurial ventures and opportunities that take place definitely not bored, and there's so much going on, but you have the possibility to really embed yourself. And when I say embed yourself, you can embrace the community that we operate within and really see how collaborative it is, because it's small enough that people, if you want to sort of have a presence, you can be known across different areas, and it's small enough that people just really, really want to help, right? And again, I think this is put best by a student. This past year, someone was asking the student. It's a student that uh, has a startup with an office in Germany, and an office in Silicon Valley, and now through the program they're doing much more in the UK. And they said, it's not that Silicon Valley doesn't want to be collaborative or doesn't want to help. It's not that people in Berlin don't want to help. Or all these places are really collaborative and really helpful, and I love having a presence there. But he said, when I got to Cambridge, I was just incredibly surprised by the degree with which people go out of their way to help, to try and find a way to give you knowledge, to help your business along. And it's very much, this was from someone who was in a part-time program and wasn't in Cambridge all the time. And they said that really, really struck them. And I think that's, again, it's reflective of really what the ecosystem is here and what it's known for. I think it's the other part about Cambridge that I think is just really special is it's somewhat this powerful paradox, right? On the one hand, you have this massive stability and tradition grounded in, a university where pieces of paper are still updated as they've been for over 800 years, where the old colleges were founded prior to 1596 and the new ones are after 1800, right? So massive tradition. But then on the other hand, you have tremendous decentralization and entrepreneurial spirit, where people are empowered and encouraged to really go and pursue discovery and change the world. And to me, that's just a special combination that I haven't found anywhere else. And it's not one that, I didn't fully appreciate that until I came here. And it's one, that I'm trying to convey in this talk, but it's one that you really, when you're in Cambridge and you get to spend some time with people and talk, you really get to feel just kind of what a special place it is for entrepreneurship. So that's kind of the main gist of what I wanted to get across. I hope as the Experience Day continues in this virtual setting, you'll get the opportunity to discuss with different program directors and different people to really find out for yourself what it is you would like to see here at Cambridge. And if there's more questions, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to take them.